Chapter 4 Hobbled Horses. I wondered, I wonder just what day Mother left New York, Joel thought anxiously. If her ship was late, she couldn't possibly reach Huntington on time. I may have to lay over there for several days and wait for her. I'm certainly anxious to see her again. It's been 9 months since I left England, but it seems more like 90 after eating my own cooking all during that time. It'll sure be mighty fine to taste Mother's good food once more. I don't see how Father's managed to get along without her all these years. As Joel sat in the slow-moving freight wagon behind the team of heavy horses, his thoughts ran busily ahead of him. Mentally, he retraced his long journey, his doubts concerning his new home, and his joy upon his arrival in Harney Valley. Why, it's the best thing that ever happened to me, Joel said to himself. Of course, our log cabin isn't much of a house compared with the neat little home we rented in Gunhavn, but Mother'll soon have everything as cozy as can be, and Father's promised to build another room or so for her as soon as possible. The best part of all, however, is the land we own. After the tiny rented space we had in our English village, this big homestead seems like half a continent. Won't Mother be surprised when she learns exactly how much property and cattle we already own? Father bought 160 acres right along the Sylvies River, just 2 miles from Burns. He paid only $3 an acre, too. Already we have 35 head of our own cattle grazing there. The wild hay is as tall and thick as Father said it would be. And won't Mother be surprised when we tell her that Father's been roads supervisor all summer? With our hay crops, cattle, and his extra road salary, we're better off than we've ever been. The best part to her will be the food, I know. Now she won't have to go to the store every time she wants a bite to eat, not with beef cattle, a milch cow, and the bared rock-laying hens Father intends to buy when she gets here. Oh, this is a great country, all right. It's a country where anyone who really wants to work can make something out of himself. And that's exactly what I intend to do. Joel's thoughts were so busy that the long, slow 6 day journey from Burns to Huntington seemed to pass like a pleasant dream. He liked the noonday stop, when he would drop the bits from the horses' mouths and give them grain in their nose bags and water in a bucket. He liked the crisp September mornings and the evenings that cooled quickly in the high desert plateau land of eastern Oregon. He liked his solitary meal beside the campfire at night, and his snug, warm bed in the big covered wagon, which looked like a small white speck in the sagebrush vastness. Mother can sleep in the wagon on the way back, he thought. I'll roll up my blankets and stretch out underneath the wagon bed. That way I'll keep the early morning dew from wetting my bed. I can range her groceries so that there'll still be room enough for the feather bed I'm sure she'll bring. Well, it's been a good trip, and there's Huntington right ahead. Now the first thing is to find out when Mother's train is due. Then I'll see whether she's on it. I'll hurry right over to the depot. You say the train's already in so early in the morning? Joel questioned anxiously a few moments later. But my mother's letter said she wouldn't get here until afternoon, and well, now I'll have to wait over a whole day at least. Perhaps she won't arrive for several days. Oh, I can see why you're so mixed up, smiled the friendly ticket agent in the railroad depot, as he peered through the bars of the small ticket window. I guess your mother didn't know about the change in the train schedule until too late to let you know. Sorry, young man, but the train came in several hours ago, and as you can see, there's no one here but two old codgers visiting together over in the corner. And I'm safe in saying that neither one of them looks like your mother, or anybody's mother, for that matter. Joel had to smile at the man's hearty laugh, and his gesture toward the bearded old-timers sitting near the depot's pot-bellied stove. No, they don't, he agreed. But I wish one of them was. I'm certainly anxious to see her. It's been 9 months since I left England, and right now it seems like 9 years. Joel felt that indeed he'd give a great deal to be able to see his mother's laughing blue eyes beneath the waving hair and glimpse the cheering smile that had never failed to encourage him. From England, you say? Exclaimed the ticket agent. Why, from your accent, I should have known you'd be looking for the little lady who came up to this window just after the train pulled in. She walked right up here and said, I'm a stranger and I'm looking for my boy. He's coming for me all the way from Burns. Can you tell me, please, if a young lad's been asking for his mother? Why, of course, that's your mother. She's a mighty nice little lady, too. No wonder you're anxious to see her again. Oh, she's here? Gasped Joel excitedly. But where is she then? Why, she went 1 block down the street to the rooming and boarding house there. It's clean and respectable, and I thought it'd be a good place for her to wait, in case she had to stay overnight. Of course, after the change in the train schedule, she didn't know when you'd be likely to get here. It does seem mighty strange that you two reached this little stopping off place so close together. It seems extra strange since your mother traveled so many thousands of miles from one direction and you came by freighter from the other direction. The station agent shook his head wonderingly. Looks as though it was just meant to be. It was. Joel called over his shoulder as he thanked the man and hurried out the door and down the dusty street to the boarding house. Trust mother to make everything come out all right, he exclaimed joyfully. Quickly he ran up the steps and threw his arms around the little woman who rushed to meet him. The station agent couldn't figure out the answer, he exclaimed, but I knew the secret. I knew you'd been praying, Mother. That's right, my boy, nodded Mother. I was. I've always said that all of the rough spots along life's road can always be smoothed out by prayer. All through the years, I've asked our Heavenly Father to help us. Sometimes the clouds have been so dark I wondered if the sun would ever shine there through. But I've never stopped praying. And look, doesn't the fact that at last we're in this wonderful America prove that God will help us? Why, I don't lose even one wink of sleep when I knew the train schedule had been changed. I just said my prayers and left everything in his care. Joel felt that he could never ask questions fast enough, nor listen carefully enough to his mother's replies. He had chafed at the necessary delay while he took father's grocery list to the store and helped load the household provisions in the big farm wagon with the white wagon sheet stretched over the bows. Though he longed to be hearing more news from England, he again carefully checked the long list of his supplies and read aloud the last few items. 2 5-gallon drums of tea garden syrup, 2 wooden boxes crackers, 16 pounds each, 1 sack dried beans, dried fruit, apricots, prunes, apples, peaches, tapioca, sago, 50-pound bag granulated sugar, 1 tin of block sulfur matches, coal of 1/2 inch hemp rope, coil of 1/2 inch hemp rope. I guess that's all, Mother, he said cheerily. Now we're ready to start for Harney Valley. I left a quantity of wheat at John Day. It'll be ground into flour by the time we return. We'll pick it up and also get several boxes of those fine John Day apples. Apples! Exclaimed Mother. How will you keep eating apples in this cold climate during the winter months? They won't be good to eat after they're frozen. Oh, they can't freeze, laughed Joel. Just wait until you see our cellar at home. It's about as wide as our bedroom back in Cornwall, and it's 10 feet high. Father dug down about 3 feet into the ground for the floor and built up 3 feet into the air to support the rounded dirt-covered roof, which was 4 feet thick. It has a dirt floor with bins for potatoes built snugly against the walls, and with wide shelves where we'll lay the apples 1 layer deep. If necessary, we can cover them with straw so they won't freeze. You'll find it cool enough in there in summer so that meat can be kept safe from spoilage. You'll soon discover that the neighboring ranchers have quite a system for sharing food. One man will butcher a fat heifer and give the forequarters and one hindquarter to nearby ranch friends. He'll keep one hindquarter for himself. Some families keep a hindquarter for frying and a forequarter for boiling. I should think he'd have a hard time getting rid of that much food, marveled Mother. Hard time, exclaimed Joel. Not the way those ranchers eat. You should see a regular Eastern Oregon ranch breakfast. There'll be steak, fried or warmed over over potatoes, sourdough biscuits, or real light bread, butter, and cooked dried fruit with scalded cream. Well, that sounds like a real meal, laughed Mother. When I cook, I'll add some pasties and some English currant cake, though, and some gooseberry pie in season. I expect some Cornish dishes will also taste good. Late afternoon twilight lay across the high plateau before Joel realized that darkness was very near. Quickly he called, "Whoa!" to the horses and looked into the purpling dusk. "We'd better stop right here, Mother," he said. "I was so busy visiting with you that I almost forgot there's no real twilight in this country. It'll soon be dark. This seems to be as good a spot as any to make camp. I'll pull over to the side of the road and unharness and hobble the horses. It'll not take long to start a crackling fire and with some of this sagebrush. Then while you fix supper, I'll feed the team." "My, you're right about the hot fire," said Mother a few minutes later, as she put the iron frying pan over the glowing coals. "But you forgot to mention the peculiar fragrance of the sage. It's unlike anything I've ever—" "Oh, what's that?" she gasped. Joel saw his tiny mother's startled face in her wide open eyes. "Yip, yip, yip, yee! Yip, 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 yee!" The plaintive wail floated across the dark, lonely miles, rising higher and higher until it broke and fell in a sobbing cry. "Joel," cried Mother, "that what? Do you have a gun?" It's all right, Mother, Joel hastened to say. I forgot to tell you about the coyotes. You'll hear them often from now on. Coyotes? Questioned Mother. What a nerve-shattering cry. Is it an animal like a wolf? Coyote is often called a prairie wolf, exclaimed Joel. But since it weighs about 30 pounds, it's much smaller than the timber wolf. You'll probably see several of them tomorrow. And you'll notice that the coyotes in this region have grayish colored fur, sometimes tipped with black. I've learned that the coyote is very cunning. He's also very clever in avoiding the poisoned meats and the traps put out for him by the cattlemen and sheep herders. But why would ranchers put out poison bait? Questioned Mother, busying herself once more with supper preparations. Surely such a small animal couldn't do much harm. Doesn't he live mostly on rabbits or mice? Yes, he does, nodded Joel. And he also eats gophers and birds that nest on the ground. But in the winter, when this small game is scarce, the packs, kill cattle and sheep, and even hunt the pronghorn antelope. They're such bold fellows. They sneak into a rancher's poultry house and carry away some nice fat chickens or turkeys. You can be sure the coyote is heartily disliked by all the ranchers, even though he's afraid of man. Well, I'm thankful I wasn't alone out here when I first heard that eerie bark, chuckled Mother. I'd probably have dived head first into the wagon and stayed there, shivering and shaking. But here, the potatoes and eggs are done to a turn. Get your plate and I'll serve you. I'm hungry too. I guess this keen air must have sharpened my appetite. It's also made me sleepy. My eyes feel so heavy that I can scarcely hold them open. Well, your bed's all made for you in the wagon, Mother, Joel answered between appreciative bites of the delicious tasting hot food. I'll clean up these few dishes just to show you how good a housekeeper I've become since arriving in America. You go on and get ready for the night, and I'll do the same in just a few minutes. I'll roll up my bedding and sleep underneath the wagon. At daybreak, I'll get up and build the fire. We must get an early start tomorrow, for we've a long way to go, and the wagon's heavily loaded. We'll be doing well to travel 20 miles a day. Joel was sure his tired head had only touched the ground when the first faint light in the eastern sky roused him. Ho hum, he yawned. He stretched sleepily before he sat up and rubbed his eyes. I guess Mother's still resting, and I'll not call her until breakfast's ready. She's had a long, hard journey, and she's feeling the need of a good rest. First of all, I'll tend to the horses. They'll probably be glad to get those hobbles off. They didn't seem to like them very. He paused, suddenly aware of the dawn's unusual stillness. He listened for the comforting sound of his horses breathing and the creaking of the hobbles that fastened their feet together. But although he strained his ears for any familiar telltale noise, he heard nothing but the drowsy chirp of a prairie bird. The horses, he thought wildly, they've been stolen. Oh, what'll I do without my horses to pull the wagon? What'll I do? He flung back the blankets and pulled on his boots, then putting on his coat and cap, he rolled hurriedly from underneath the wagon's protecting dryness into the dewy roadside grass. Here, boy, he called over and over to his favorite horse. Though his eyes frantically scanned the horizon, for some sign of his vanished team. Only the quiet landscape met his searching gaze. Joel, what is it? He whirled around the wagon as he heard his mother's worried voice. What's happened? Are you ill? Again he heard his mother's anxious call. It's the team, Mother, he replied quickly. They've wandered a short distance away. They can't have gone far because they're securely hobbled. Don't worry, I'll soon find the fat scallywags and bring them back. I'll start searching as soon as I chop some sagebrush for a fire. I'll leave you plenty of firewood, and you'll be cozy as can be. No thanks. I won't take the time to eat. I'll not be gone long, and you can have breakfast ready for me when I get back. Bye, Mother. Don't worry, I'll be all right. Later on, Joel was smiling ruefully as he recalled his brave leave-taking. But during the long hours that followed, he grew tired and hungry and thirsty as he trudged across the dusty desert in a vain search for his vanished team. I don't know what I'm going to do, he choked. He felt almost overcome by the blazing sun's afternoon heat and the thick dust clouds and his own anxiety. Here I am, miles from somewhere, and horses are probably just as many miles from nowhere. I don't know in which direction to turn, and yet I can't go back to the wagon without my team. It may be some time before any other traveler passes this way. I can't keep Mother waiting along the sides or along the roadside. She's probably worried half to death right this minute. Not for herself, but for me. Oh, what can I do? As Joel stared despairingly toward the rays of the slanting sun, he seemed to hear his little mother's voice. All through the years, I've asked our Heavenly Father to help us. Sometimes the clouds have been so dark, I wondered if the sun would ever shine through. But I've never stopped praying. God will help us if we're only faithful. Mother's right, Joel murmured to himself as he bent his head and asked for help in this trying hour. I don't know how my prayer could be answered, for I'm miles from civilization. But surely the Lord can send help today, just as he did in days of old. Hello there, stranger, called a loud voice. Joel opened his eyes in astonishment and turned quickly at the unexpected greeting. Why, where, how, he stammered. I didn't see. Of course you didn't, interrupted the bearded stranger. My name's Wright, and I live off yonder in that direction. That's where I was heading when I seen some stray horses roaming over the hills. They was wearing hobbles too. Then I just happened to look this way, and there you was, standing still. If you'd gone a little further over that hill, I'd sure enough have missed seeing you. Those surely must be my lost horses, exclaimed Joel. I've been looking for them until I'm about worn from walking. But I'll never be able to understand how they got this far with hobbles on their feet. Well, son, drawled the smiling stranger, I don't blame you for being real surprised when you woke up and found no team near your camp. I had to learn the hard way too. But it only took one lesson to teach me that hobbled horses get right smart and they soon learn to run with their hobbles fastened on. So from now on, I shouldn't be one mite surprised but what you'll stake the ornery critters out too. Am I right? You certainly are, exclaimed Joel. But what worries me is how I'm going to find them. I left my mother at our wagon hours ago, but I can't go back without my team. Well, I'll tell you what I thought, said the kindly rancher. You get up here behind me and we'll ride over to my place. It ain't far, then I'll loan you a horse and enough rope so you can catch those runaway and bring him back to my place. He won't take too long on horseback, for they can't have gone too far since I last caught sight of him. As they rode along, Joel thankfully stretched his tired legs and wriggled his cramped, aching toes. He felt that he had never had a softer, more comfortable seat than the one he now occupied on the bony back of the man's jogging mare. Well, Mother's certainly right, he thought over and over again. And if anybody ever was a good Samaritan, this man is one. I can never be thankful enough for his help. Joel found that the next few hours sped by as rapidly as the previous ones had dragged. Even so, it was midnight when they rode wearily up to the lonely campsite and looked anxiously toward the big white-topped wagon, now silvered by September moonlight. There's the wagon all safe and sound, he thought anxiously. But where's Mother? There's no sign of a campfire. Surely she wouldn't have wandered away looking for me. Joel felt his heart pound hard as he rode toward the front of the freighter and peered eagerly into its dim depths. He felt weak with relief when his loud call was answered. Mother, where are you? He asked quickly. I'm right here, son, answered Mother's calm, quiet voice. I figured you'd keep on going until you found those stray horses, even if it took a couple of days. So after I ate an early supper, I just undressed and got into bed. Somehow the coyotes didn't sound quite as close as they did when I was out there by the fire. Oh, Mother, stammered Joel. I'm so sorry that you had such a long wait. It it was all my fault. I should have known that those horses needed to be securely tied. No harm's done except that you're tired and hungry, Mother replied. We'll get on our way again early in the morning, and this time surely nothing will go wrong. We'll reach Burns safely. Father will be waiting to greet us and welcome me to our new home. That's going to be wonderful. Oh, we've much to be thankful for, Joel. God has been very good to us. As he heard his mother's tender words, Joel swallowed hard against the lump in his throat. And then, as he saw her step down from the wagon and start toward the pile of sagebrush wood, he laughed joyously at her next statement. But right now, my boy, just as soon as you kindle the fire, I'm going to warm up some food. After all, you told me to have breakfast ready when you got back. And since almost 24 hours have gone by, I think you've waited long enough. Hurry and send your team and then come back here. We'll not waste a minute. Any boy who's been chasing hobbled horses from dawn to dark deserves a fine meal. I hope it'll be one of the first of the many good, nourishing meals I'm planning on preparing for you all, for soon John will come here to join us. Once again, our family will be together. Somehow I feel that we can look forward to many happy years in our home in Harney Valley. I'm sure that's true, Mother, Joel answered. And as he looked from the moon silvered wagon across the dim, dreaming desert, his heart sang with happy thoughts of the bright future that now emerged before him.